If I had to describe my style in watches and just in general, I'd probably say that I lean a little bit more conservative and really wanting to invest in timeless, really versatile pieces. And that certainly goes for watches, but that does not mean that it doesn't make sense to invest in more kind of eye-catching pieces in your collection. What is going on, everybody? Teddy Baldassarre here, and in this video we're going to be looking at watches with very colorful dials or eye-catching dials. I'm not going to be able to name all of the watches in this video that I potentially want to mention, so please leave comments down below about other watches that people should consider, watches that I've missed. Would love to see them as always. So guys, let's jump into the video. Alright guys, so before we jump into the list of watches here today, I did in a recent video announce a launch of a new video concept idea that I want to do on the channel to kind of get you guys involved, called Watch Collection Battles. I don't know if the battles kind of threw some people off. I saw some comments in previous videos saying that they weren't crazy about this, but I have some ideas so it's not going to be overly competitive, and I thought it'd be a fun way to kind of just show different people and what they're collecting and kind of, really let you guys take a little bit of the spotlight here and just create a conversation around what other people's collections are. I don't want it to be a way in which we put down other people or anything like that. So I have a form down below. If you do want to take part in that, you're interested in learning more about this, fill it out. I'm going to be reaching out to particular people in different kind of ranges and tiers. So I have different price tiers that we're going to be kind of competing on, and would love to see you guys partake in that. So guys, though, let's jump into the list. So first up, we have a watch that I have done an entire video review on, and that is the Seiko SNK M95. So this watch was an Amazon exclusive watch, basically going off the SNK 800 series line with a red dial. So this watch here is priced at between $90 to $100. However, it's being really hard to find this thing now. And I am a little discouraged to even put it on here because I thought it was a pretty fun watch, but now it's becoming increasingly harder to find. So it does come with a 37mm case. It is automatically powered by a Seiko 7S26 movement and is water resistant up to 30 meters. I don't want to say that I maybe caused Amazon to be sold out of these things. I don't know if they're going to be creating any more of these and offering them up. However, I think they're really cool watches, and if you can find one, they're a great choice to go for. So next up we have the Timex Weekender Chronograph, and I've mentioned the Timex Weekender Chronograph on this channel several times, and I usually recommend going for like the white dial, the blue dial version. I think those are very conservative and I think timeless in their color. However, the Timex Weekender Chronograph also comes with a green dial, and I think that one definitely is a bit eye-catching and can be a bit polarizing in whether or not people would think it's a good choice. So these watches are coming in between $40 and $50 on average, case size of 40 millimeters, and a movement powered by a quartz movement, water resistant up to 30 meters. And you guys know I really appreciate Timex. I think they have really clean designs, and I think this green dial version looks pretty cool. So in thinking about colorful dials, one of the first brands that comes to mind is Swatch. They have some of the funkiest dials out there. A lot of them aren't for me. So when I was looking at Swatch, I knew I had to mention at least one of their watches, and I came across one watch they released this year actually. So that is the Swatch Redflect. This is a watch that comes in with a $120 price point, has a case size of 42.7 millimeters, powered by a quartz movement, and is water resistant up to 30 meters. Why I wanted to feature this watch is because I just thought the reddish dial looked amazing, and it had that kind of vignette around the outer part of the dial there that really caught my eye, and I thought it would look pretty classy with the hands, the gold contrasting hands, and it just really spoke to me. So I thought it was a really good looking piece for what it was, and for swatches that I think have a lot of polarizing kind of designs, for me, at least in my particular taste, I thought this one was pretty well done. So next up, we have two watches from the Seiko SKX line, the SKX A35 and the SKX 011. So both of these watches usually range between $250 to $300 on average, case size of 42 millimeters, are powered by an automatic Seiko 7S26 movement, and are water resistant up to 200 meters. There's one thing about the Seiko SKX line that I think a lot of people overlook, is the fact that there are more than just 3 versions of these watches. So you have more than just the 007, 009, and the 013, but really cool looking watches. I don't think they're necessarily for me, but an orange and a yellow SKX dial, I think that is really cool, and I think these watches certainly should get some more love, and I think could be a lot of fun. So next up we have the Halios Seaforth, and I was hesitant to actually mention the Halios Seaforth because they are just so hard to find, but they are just so beautiful to look at. So these watches coming in between $700 and $800 when you can find them. Vary in case size depending on the bezel that you choose, so 40 or 41 millimeters. They're powered by an automatic ETA 28-24-2 movement and are water resistant up to 200 meters. So these watches come with, I think my favorite is the light blue dial, but they also have oranges and yellow dials as well. I wanted to mention them because I think they really play off this fun, playful dial better than anybody else for divers in this price range, and I think are some of my favorite looking divers at pretty much any price range. So next up we have the Mido Multifort Escape. This watch is coming in between $700 and $900 with a case size of 44 millimeters, powered by an automatic Mido 80.611, and are water resistant up to 100 meters. So you have a bunch of different dial options here, but I wanted to go for kind of the green dial option because I thought it was a little bit more eye-catching. These dials though, on top of just the color themselves, are kind of really interesting in how they're designed with kind of that panel-like aesthetic on the dial. And Mido is just one of those brands. It just gets kind of lost in the Swatch group as a whole. And I think I always try to give them love because I think they produce some pretty solid watches for the price. And a lot of their watches are very tasteful in how they're designed. So next up, we have a watch that I have owned and I know is very beloved in the watch community here on YouTube and beyond, and that is the Seiko Alpinist. So the Seiko Alpinist is really going up in price a good amount. When I bought this thing about 2 years ago, it was around the $300 mark, and it is now approaching and surpassing $500 in a lot of places that I look. It has a case size of 38 millimeters. It is powered by an automatic Seiko 6R15 movement and is water resistant up to 200 meters. So this watch with its green sunburst dial really does catch your eye. I necessarily kind of sold it just because I thought it clashed with a lot of my outfits. But that said, for the right person, for the right occasion, this is a great watch. It is very versatile in the sense of its specs and what it can withstand. That 200 meters water resistant is really incredible for what you're getting here, but a really just value driven watch. I don't know how much longer that will be the case as they continue to go up in value, but they definitely deserve a mention here. All right, so now we have the Stova Antia back to Bauhaus. So these watches are going to range between $700 and a bit over $1,000 depending on what version you go for. Case sizes vary as well. You have a 35.5 millimeter option, a 36.5 millimeter option, and a 39 millimeter option. Movements as well vary. Water resistance as well varies because you have a lot of customization that you can go for with Stova watches. So water resistant between 30 and 50 meters depending on which one you go for. And I wanted to feature these watches because I think they have a really clean design and they have multiple really interesting colored dials that you can choose from. One being a green, a pink, a blue, and a brown. Next up, we have one of my favorite brands that I have actually never owned one of their watches, and that is Oris. And we're gonna be looking at 2 of their watches. So first up, we have the Oris Heritage 65. So these watches are coming in between $1,200 and $1,600 with a case size of 42 millimeters, powered by an Oris caliber 733, a Solida-based movement, and are water resistant up to 100 meters. And despite that 100 meters water resistant rating, I think for most people, these will qualify as a diver. Oris positions them as one of their diver watches. And you have a few different interesting dial options that you can choose from. My 2 favorites here when we're talking about really interesting eye-catching dials is the green and the silver. Normally I wouldn't freak out about a silver dial, but I think this one is really well done and it is a little bit interesting to see on a diver watch. You really can't think of a lot of divers with silver dials of this nature. So I wanted to give both of these watches a mention, or at least both of these dial colors a mention, and really love Oris what they're doing with a lot of their designs and doing it with great value. So from one Oris watch to another, we have the Oris Big Crown Pointer Date. So I really love these watches. I mean, the more I look at these watches, the more I'm like, man, I would love to potentially add one of these to my collection. These are gonna come in between $1,300 and $1,800 on average. They come in 2 different case sizes, so a 36 millimeter case and a 40 millimeter case, and are powered by an Oris caliber 754, another Solida-based movement, and are water resistant up to 50 meters. So two things I love about this watch. One is the fact that they have two different case size options, so a 36 millimeter and a 40 millimeter. I think that can accommodate pretty much every type of wrist out there with those two sizes. Really well done by Oris there, picking those two. And then the dials here, you have some awesome choices. So you can actually get a bronze watch version, which is really interesting. But I wanted to point out kind of the green dial version. I just think it looks really well done and understated with its design. And on top of that, you also have this blue dial version that I think also follows suit with the green dial in its understated look. And I thought is another interesting option here, even though blue isn't that eye-catching, but this one I thought was really interesting. So next up, we are going back to German watches for a couple watches here. So first up, we have the Sinn 356 Flieger with the copper dial. And I think this watch is sweet looking. It comes in at $2,500. A case size of 38.5 millimeters, is powered by a SW500 movement, and is water resistant up to 100 meters. So this watch does come in with a black dial and a couple other options as well, but this copper dial really is something interesting. And I love Sinn, what they do with their manufacturing. I'm not really a big chronograph person when it comes to water resistance. I think it's pretty unnecessary. I don't think you should ever go in the water with the chronograph just for the sake of ever accidentally banging a pusher in like the pool or wherever you're at. That said, Sinn is always over manufacturing their watches, and I think that's too much of our appreciation as consumers, as I'm a big fan of their watches, and I know many other people are as well. So next up, we have a watch that partially I own. I own the Nomos Ahoi Neomatic, but I want to feature the Nomos Ahoi because I think the Nomos Ahoi is more accommodating to most people's wrists, coming in at 40.3 millimeters. These watches range between $3,000 and $4,000. I see them circulating a lot in that range. Retail like right above that mark though. Movement is an automatic DUW 5101 and are water resistant up to 200 meters. So you guys know I love Nomos, and the Nomos Ahoi I think is a really interesting offering from their line, as it is a really great everyday watch. And these are really cool watches. It's just, they are very eye-catching type dials. So if that's something that you think could be a really good complement to your collection, you just kind of have to be honest with yourself when buying these watches. So next up, we have the Tudor Black Bay S&G. So Tudor Black Bays have been really flooding the market and have now really become probably maybe one of the best value props on the market today. You're getting an in-house movement at a pretty reasonable price. This one, however, is a little bit more, but it does have an interesting dial. It comes in with a $4,800 to $5,000 price range. Case size 41 millimeters and is powered by an automatic caliber MT5612 in-house movement from Tudor. Water resistant up to 200 meters as well. And this was just a really cool looking watch. I think the Tudor Black Bays overall are probably one of the best moves that Tudor has made in the last 5 so years. So I've been really impressed with Tudor. I've done a whole video about Tudor and kind of how I like how they've been positioning themselves. And I think a big thanks to that is the Tudor Black Bay. So I wanted to make sure that I gave that a mention here today. So I had to cut off this video somewhere, and I thought this would probably be the best way to cut it off. And that is with the Rolex Submariner Hulk. So these watches are gonna retail just about at $9,000, case size of 40 millimeters, powered by an automatic Rolex 3135 movement, and are water resistant up to 300 meters. So the Submariner Hulk is one of those watches that I think you either love it or you hate it. I think it's really cool. I don't know if I would spend the money to get a Hulk in my collection. However, I think it's really cool that Rolex continues to produce these, as I'm a big fan of them. Just don't know if I would actually add one to my collection. So guys, what do you think of this list? I probably should have done it at the beginning of the summer because I think a lot of these colorful dials are really well suited for the summertime. However, I'd love to hear you guys' comments down below about any other additions I should have made or should make, and if I ever decide to do a part 2 of this series. So guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. Also hit the bell icon because that all really helps out the channel. That's how YouTube's algorithm works and allowing this channel to continue to grow. So that'd be a big help if you were able to do that. In addition, be sure to go check me out on Instagram so you can stay up to date with our watch giveaways. We're going to be giving away a Commandeer ski, a Vostok Commandeer ski, and a Vostok Amphibia this month. So look out for those reviews in an upcoming video, and we're going to be giving them away as well. Also, be sure to check out our Patreon if you want to support this new generation of watch lovers that we're trying to foster up here on this channel. That's a great way to do it, and it really helps just support this mission that we have But guys, thank you so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.